Nisambula Vinaka, allow me to introduce myself. My name is Faranisese Kinivuwai. I am the Director, Infrastructure, Transport and Policy with Fiji's Ministry of Infrastructure and Transport, primarily responsible for determining what planning is done for Fiji's current and future transport needs, including the maritime sector. Last year, I was part of Fiji's delegation to the IMO regarding the negotiations on emissions reduction roadmap and the target set for at least 50% reduction in international shipping emissions by 2050. The case for this action and why the Pacific has been at the forefront of setting target has been made this morning by my colleague from the Solomon Islands, Mr. Jimmy Nuake. Where I'd like to pick up in this short presentation is on the challenges and opportunities involved in Fiji pursuing a parallel route for decarbonizing our domestic sector. Just as with international effort, nothing short of a paradigm shift is required. This target has been made this morning by my colleague. Nothing short of a paradigm shift is required, and it's critically important that we don't underestimate the size of this challenge or the obstacles that will need to be overcome. First, let me tell you a little about our little island here in the Fiji Islands. Fiji, we are a maritime nation, a cluster of over 300 large and small islands in the middle of the world's largest ocean, which is the Pacific. We first came here by sea, our own ships. More than 3,000 we first came here by sea on our own ships more than 3,000 years ago. While our population is small, less than 1 million people, our maritime footprint is enormous, more than 1.3 million square kilometers. Our communities are separated by a blue water ocean passage of up to 500 kilometers, and we live in the middle of the Pacific's cyclone belt. Shipping is our lifeline. Maritime transport is a cross-cutting issue for our maritime nation, and interrelated to most major domestic economic, social, and environmental drivers. It is essential for our community with the rest of the world and the global economy. It is needed for almost all domestic economic activity, for trade, for delivery of social services such as education and health to our island communities. Delivering on this pledge is my responsibility, ensuring an effective maritime sector, one that can provide safe, affordable, accessible, and appropriate services. This is already an enormous challenge for any small island developing state, even without the challenges of climate change and the need for decarbonization of all energy sectors. The question, our shipping emissions are so small, they don't even measure on a global scale. Our current shipping issues are large enough to deal with as it is, and one of the questions that we ask is, why should Fiji commit to what is probably an extremely difficult and expensive process to decarbonize our domestic shipping? The answer is that we have no choice. At the One World Summit organized by President Macron of France in the margins of the UN General Assembly in New York, Fiji committed to decarbonize our own economy by 2050. As Gandhi said, leading by example is not an option, it is the only option. Fiji and Pacific leaders have consistently called for action toward low-carbon shipping at international and national level since the 2015 Suva Declaration on Climate Change that preceded the Paris Agreement. In step with our Pacific states, Fiji has consistently argued for a global international target of 70 to 100% decarbonization of shipping. The IPCC 1.5 report is clear. All sectors must act now. It makes no difference whether we have an economy the size of an island or one the size of a continent. But the deciding factor for the domestic level is that not changing means a high risk that will be increasingly stranded with inefficient carbon technologies that become ever more expensive to operate. As difficult as the forthcoming revolution in shipping might be, we cannot afford not to. The question should be, the question that we really should address is how can Fiji decarbonize its shipping? Since the challenges are bigger than others, a country of less than 1 million people, we thought winning gold in the Rugby Sevens at Rio was big. Decarbonizing Fiji's maritime sector will be the biggest challenge our sector has faced since the shift from sail to steam. Fiji is currently finalizing its low emissions development strategy, or LEDS. Currently, we estimate our maritime emissions to be around 170 kilotons of CO2 and rising. If this trend continues unchanged, we project our emissions in 2050 to be north of 600 kilotons. For a deep decarbonization pathway, we need to peak this as soon as possible and then reverse the trend rapidly. It's certainly a big challenge on any scale. But if we break it down, it looks more manageable. Almost all of our emissions come from two sources, petrol and diesel engine combustion. Shoreside assets have a very small footprint, and recent work by SPC is demonstrating that it is possible through better management to make significant savings in those. Fiji has a relatively small fleet comprising a large number of small outboard motor-driven craft and diesel-powered vessels of various types of cargo, passenger, and fishing vessels. There are few ships over 5,000 tons. By global scales, these are not large assets. In a stepped process, we can tackle the small boat emissions by shifting from two-stroke to four-stroke, and then electric and fuel cell models as they become ever more readily and affordably available on the global market. Larger vessels will take more ambitious measures, but there is increasing new technologies and options becoming available. If it will all come down to whether our government can create the right enabling environment and sufficient and appropriate financing can be made available to the sector. It is possible for us to do, but just because it is possible doesn't make it easy. It is essential that we don't underestimate the work that will be needed, and that we don't underestimate the additional resources that will need to be found, financial and human. Remember, while undertaking this transition, we must still provide for the needs of our citizens, and accessibility is one that is priority to our citizens. Our shipping costs are already some of the highest in the world. At the domestic level, there are usually only marginal returns on investment, and existing major financing and issuance barriers for shipping companies. A major resourcing issue that must be addressed and sustained over a long period of time. For this, we will need the full support of our own domestic industry, our public, and our development partners. A paradigm shift is required, but a paradigm shift requires enormous investment in capacity development across the sector. We already face a fast-changing regulatory environment, which we struggle to keep step with. As government, we must provide both an enabling environment for change, but also a strong regulatory function to ensure the growing international standards for shipping are maintained. Decarbonization offers numerous challenges and also positive opportunities. It has not received the same priority in policy, research and financing as other energy subsectors. Against these challenges, there are potentially available a range of benefits, climate financing, the unfortunate necessity for those of us living at the coalface of climate change, provides a unique opportunity to re-equip our shipping sector over time with new operational and technological solutions. Solutions that are low carbon but also lower overall cost to operate when measured over the lifetime of the vessels. Fuel is often the major operational cost for our smaller scale shippers. If this cost can be reduced, even eliminated, then surely there's a major cost savings available that can be spent on better maintenance, equipment, and better paid crews. Raising such standards must be the benefit of the shippers' primary customers, who are the communities of Fiji. If ships no longer need to be large to achieve the economies of scale necessary to pay for ever mounting fuel bills, if engines are more efficient and require less costs in maintenance, can these costs be passed to the consumer? Do they provide options where larger fleets of smaller vessels are cost viable? Does it provide better access for smaller communities, which is important for our island communities? What are the economic employment opportunities in establishing new industries and low carbon shipping technologies, especially when Fiji is the logical hub for technology transfer to other neighboring island states? In our busy and growing port cities, decarbonizing shipping will have immediate health benefits for surrounding problems. And if Fiji can demonstrate it is possible, does any other country have a reason not to follow suit? And these appear attractive opportunities for Fiji, but I end with a word of caution. We don't yet have enough hard evidence that ultimately the benefits of these opportunities outweigh the risks and cost of overcoming the challenges. The transition must be planned, budgeted, and accounted for. Full due diligence must be done, and the very real risks associated must be recognized and addressed. That is our responsibility as the government of the people of Fiji. Perhaps there should be a gold medal for shipping decarbonization. Fijians love a challenge. Thank you very much. Vinaka.